3 months ago, my mother called me from a parking lot. She was shaking. She had just come out of a grocery store and she could not remember which direction she had parked. It was not the first time. At 68, her spatial memory on large lots had become inconsistent, something that happens to a lot of people and nothing to be ashamed of. But here is what made it terrifying. She was driving a car that made the experience 10 times harder than it needed to be. She had been driving a 2019 midsize SUV that her previous car dealer had recommended. Big screen, lots of cameras, lots of warnings. In theory, safer. In practice, it overwhelmed her every time she got behind the wheel. The lane departure alarm beeped at her. The blind spot indicator flashed constantly. The backup camera had so many guidelines on it that she had stopped using it and was turning around manually instead. At 68, with arthritis in her neck. The phone call that changed everything. She said to me, "I think I need to stop driving." And I knew the car was the problem, not her. I am not a mechanic. I am not a car dealer. I am someone who spent 4 months researching every used car under $15,000 that would be right for a woman in her late 60s. Someone who needs easy entry, clear visibility, simple controls, and a car she can trust not to surprise her. Someone who has been driving since 1975 and deserves a car that works with her, not against her. Today I am going to tell you exactly what I found. And I am going to tell you why the car I chose for my mother is the same car I would recommend for almost any senior woman or man in their 60s or early 70s, regardless of where they live, what their budget is, or how long it has been since they last bought a used car. Stay with me through this whole video, because the most important part is not the car itself. It is the 4 criteria I used to find it. Criteria that no salesperson will ever walk you through. And if you apply those same 4 criteria to your own situation, you will end up in the right car, whether it is the one I chose or something different. Let me tell you what 4 months of research actually looks like, because I want you to be able to do this yourself, or to help someone you love do it. I started with consumer reports, not the overall brand ratings, the specific model year reliability data, broken down by system, engine, transmission, brakes, electrical, body hardware, in-car electronics, because a car that scores well overall can still have a specific failure pattern in exactly the category that will cost you the most to fix. I cross-referenced everything with RepairPal, a database that tracks actual repair costs paid by real owners at real shops across the country, not manufacturer estimates. What people actually spent. And for a senior on a fixed income, the difference between a $380 a-year car and a $740 a-year car is not abstract. Over 5 years, that gap is $1,900. I spent time in owner forums, communities of people who have driven these cars for 8, 10, 12 years and documented everything. What breaks first? What never breaks? What they wish they had known before they bought? And I went through NHTSA complaint records, the government database of officially logged safety problems, filtered specifically for the model years I was considering. After 4 months, I had looked at 23 different vehicles. I narrowed it to 6, then to 3, then to 1. And I am going to tell you not just which car I chose, but exactly why every other car fell short. Because understanding the misses is just as useful as knowing the winner. Before I name the car, I want to walk you through the 4 criteria I used, because these are the criteria that matter for seniors in their 60s and 70s, not the criteria that matter for a 35-year-old. Criterion 1, ease of entry and exit, every single day, not just once in a showroom. This sounds obvious, but most people test a car once, find it comfortable, and sign. They do not test it on a cold morning when their joints are stiff. They do not test it after a long drive when their hip flexors are tight. The right car for a senior needs to have a seat height that allows you to step in, not drop in. A door that opens wide. A door frame you can use without feeling like you are hauling yourself out of a hole. I made my mother get in and out of every car we tested 4 times, not once. Criterion 2, physical controls for every daily function. Heat, fan speed, radio volume, defrost. If any of these requires a touchscreen, it failed. Non-negotiable. I do not care how modern the car looks or how many safety awards it has won. A car that forces a senior driver to take her eyes off the road to navigate a menu to turn up the heat is not a safe car for that driver. It is a distraction device with seats. Criterion 3. Under $400 per year in average maintenance cost. Verified by RepairPal data, not manufacturer promises. Because the purchase price is not the full cost of a car. The car that costs $10,000 to buy but $800 a year to maintain costs more over 4 years than a car that costs $13,000 to buy and $380 a year to maintain. The math is simple, and almost nobody does it before buying. And Criterion 4. A documented history of running past 200,000 miles with nothing more than routine maintenance. Not in a press release. In owner forums. In documented service histories. In the kind of evidence that only emerges after a car has been on the road for 15 years and the people who drove it have had time to report what happened. The 4 non-negotiable criteria. 1. Easy entry and exit. Test 4 times, not once, including cold morning simulation. 2. Physical controls for heat, fan, radio, defrost. Touchscreen for these, wants immediate fail. 3. Under $400 WAR verified maintenance cost. RepairPal data, not manufacturer estimate. 4. Documented 200,000 plus mile lifespan from real owners, not press releases. 23 cars. Those 4 criteria. 6 made it past the first pass. Here is what happened to the 5 that did not make the final cut, and then I will tell you about the one that did. These 5 cars made it through the initial data filter. Good reliability scores, reasonable prices, but each one had a specific problem that disqualified it for a senior driver in her late 60s. I am going to be specific about each one, because these are also popular recommendations, and I want you to understand why they did not make the cut. Near miss number 1, Toyota RAV4, 2018-2020. Reliability, 4 of 5 consumer reports, excellent. Maintenance, 429 YR, good. Why it fell short. The 8-inch touchscreen controls climate in most 2019-2020 trims, no physical fan speed dial. The RAV4 was my first choice. Excellent reliability, strong resale value, good seat height for seniors. It almost made it. The problem, in the 2019 and 2020 model years, many trims move the fan speed control entirely to the touchscreen. You cannot adjust airflow without touching the screen. For a woman who has been driving since the Ford administration, that is not an adjustment period. That is a permanent distraction. The RAV4 failed Criterion 2. Near miss nor 2, Subaru Forester, 2019-2021. Reliability, 4-5 consumer reports, very good. Safety, IIHS top safety pick, highest rating. Why it fell short. Standard AWD adds $500, $800 IR more to maintenance and tire costs, over budget for fixed income. The Forester is an outstanding car and would have been my recommendation for someone in a colder climate with icy winters. Standard all-wheel drive, top safety ratings, excellent visibility. But here is the thing nobody mentions about AWD. It adds cost. 4-wheel drivetrain components cost more to service. Tires wear differently. Insurance is slightly higher. For my mother, who lives in a mild climate and drives predominantly in town, the AWD premium added roughly $600 to $800 per year in total ownership costs. It pushed the annual cost above my Criterion 3 threshold. The Forester failed on total cost of ownership for her specific situation. Near miss number 3, Mazda CX-5, 2017-2019. Reliability, 5 of 5 consumer reports, perfect score. Maintenance, 447 RR, within range. Why it fell short, seat is lower than ideal. Entry, exit, harder than competitors for hip and knee issues. The CX-5 has a perfect 5 out of 5 reliability score from Consumer Reports, the lowest complaint rate in its class from NHTSA, the interior quality of a car costing twice the price. I genuinely love this car. but my mother has had 2 cortisone injections in her right hip in the past 3 years. When we sat in the CX-5, she got in fine. On the second exit, 4 times in, 4 times out, as I required, she winced. The step down is slightly more pronounced than comparable vehicles. Over months and years of daily use, that matters. The CX-5 failed Criterion 1, just barely, but it failed. Near miss number 4, Honda CR-V 2017-2019. Reliability, 5.5 Consumer Reports, excellent. Maintenance, 407 YR, good. Why it fell short, 1.5L turbo engine, oil dilution issue documented in cold climates, used pricing too high for budget. The CR-V would have been a strong choice, and for many seniors it still is, particularly the 2022 and newer models. But the 2017 to 2019 CR-V with the 1.5-liter turbocharged engine has a documented oil dilution issue in colder climates. Gasoline mixes into the engine oil during short cold weather trips, slowly degrading lubrication. Honda has acknowledged the issue. It is manageable with more frequent oil changes, but for a senior buying a used car with limited mechanical oversight, adding a known ongoing maintenance complication was not something I was willing to do. And the used pricing on the CR-V in this market meant we were looking at $16,000 to $18,000 for a clean example, which pushed it toward the upper edge of the budget. The CR-V came close, but not close enough. Near miss number 5, Hyundai Tucson 2019-2021. Reliability, 4.5 Consumer Reports, good. Warranty advantage, powertrain warranty often still transferable. Significant value. Why it fell short, infotainment system received poor usability ratings from senior-specific user testing. The Tucson almost made it on the warranty argument alone. A 2019 or 2020 Tucson bought used today may still have years left on Hyundai's powertrain warranty, transferable to the new owner. That is an enormous financial safety net. But when I ran my mother through the infotainment system in the 2019 Tucson, something became clear. The menu structure, even for simple things like switching between AM and FM, required more steps than any other car we tested. The AAA has specifically studied how infotainment complexity affects drivers over 65, and the Tucson system in this generation ranked poorly. Physical controls exist, but the logic of the layout confused her. The Tucson failed on a very specific aspect of Criterion 2. Not the existence of physical controls, but the intuitiveness of them. The reveal, the Toyota Corolla, 2016 to 2019. I know what you are thinking. You were expecting something more surprising, something less obvious. Maybe a Buick, maybe a Mazda, maybe something you had never considered. And I understand that reaction, because the Corolla does not look impressive. It is not trying to impress you. That is actually the entire point. Walk me through what the data actually shows, because this is where the Corolla stops looking ordinary and starts looking extraordinary. Toyota Corolla, 2016-2019, the data. Consumer Reports reliability, 5 out of 5. Perfect score, every model year in this range. RepairPal annual maintenance, 362 YR. Lowest of any car in America in its class. NHTSA complaints, among the lowest complaint rates of any compact car sold in the U.S. Documented lifespans. Owner forums show 250,000, 300,000 plus miles routinely on the original engine. Average used price, $11,000, $14,500 for clean 2016-2019 examples, within budget. Physical controls, full analog climate control, real dials for temp, fan, mode, zero touchscreen dependency. Seat height, measured at 19.5 inches from ground. Ideal range for easy senior entry and exit. That last point about the seat height, let me explain why it matters. Automotive engineers and occupational therapists who work with senior drivers generally agree that a seat height between 18 and 21 inches from the ground represents the ideal range for most people over 65. Below 18 inches, you are dropping into the car. Above 21, you are climbing. The Corolla sits at 19.5 inches. It is as close to ideal as any car in its price range. But here is what no data point captures, and this is the part I want you to hear most carefully. When my mother drove the Corolla home for the first time and pulled into her driveway, she sat in it for a moment before getting out. I asked her how it felt. She said, "It feels like a car." I asked her what she meant. She said, "It feels like I know how to drive it, like it trusts me." That is not a small thing. For a woman who had started to wonder whether she should be driving at all, feeling competent and confident behind the wheel again was not about horsepower or resale value or a 5-star safety rating. It was about dignity. The Corolla does not overwhelm her. It does not beep at her constantly. It does not have a screen she has to navigate to turn on the seat warmer. When she wants to turn down the fan, she reaches for the dial that has always been where it should be. When she wants to change the radio, she presses the button she has been pressing on every car she has driven for 40 years. And it starts, every morning, without drama, without warning lights, without uncertainty. $362 a year in average maintenance, a perfect 5 out of 5 reliability score. Owners reporting 280,000 and 300,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes, tires, and brakes. A used price between $11,000 and $14,500 for a clean 2016 to 2019 example. Physical controls for everything she touches every day, and a seat she can get in and out of without pain. It passed all 4 criteria. And it has not given my mother a single problem in the 5 months she has been driving it. If you are watching this because someone you love is in the same situation my mother was in, here is the practical guide I wish I had had when I started 4 months ago. These are the exact steps I took in order. Step 1. Before you look at a single car, sit down together and go through the 4 criteria I described. Ask the senior in your life to rate how important each one is to them personally. Some people care more about entry height than anything else. Some care most about cost. Some have a specific brand loyalty they are not willing to abandon, and that is completely fine. The criteria help you both get on the same page before emotions enter the room at a dealership. Step 2. Use Car Gurus or iSeeCars to search for 2016 to 2019 Toyota Corollas within 50 miles of your zip code. Filter for under 80,000 miles and a price under $15,000. You will find plenty. The Corolla is not rare, which means pricing is competitive and you have negotiating room. Step 3. For every specific car you are considering, not the model in general, but the actual vehicle, go to NHTSA.gov and enter the 17-digit VIN number. This gives you the recall history for that exact car. Free. Takes 60 seconds. If there are open recalls, factor them in. Step 4. Run a Carfax or AutoCheck report. Ask the seller to provide it. If they will not, move on. You are looking for accident history, the number of previous owners, ideally 2 or fewer, and whether the odometer readings are consistent. Step 5. Before you buy, pay $80 to $120 for a pre-purchase inspection from an independent mechanic, not a dealer mechanic, an independent one. Have them put it on a lift and check the undercarriage, the brakes, the fluids, the belts, and the tires. This step saved me from buying a 2017 Corolla with a cracked CV boot that the seller had no idea about. The repair was not expensive, but it was a negotiating point that reduced the final price by $400. And step 6, the one most people skip. Have the senior driver take the car for at least a 20-minute drive before buying, not around the block. 20 minutes. On the road they actually drive, through their neighborhood, past the grocery store they use, into the parking lot where they park. If the car does not feel right in the environment where it will actually be driven, it is the wrong car, regardless of what the data says. My mother has driven 4,200 miles in the last 5 months. She has not called me from a parking lot in a panic once. She has not asked me to explain a warning light. She has not had a single repair bill. She told me last week, unprompted, that she had driven herself to her book club, to 2 doctor appointments, and to her sister's house 3 counties away, and that she had not thought about the car once during any of those trips. The best car for a senior is not the one with the most features. It is the one they stop thinking about. When a car disappears, when it just does its job quietly and predictably, day after day, that is when it has done something extraordinary. The Toyota Corolla 2016 to 2019 is that car for my mother, based on 4 months of research and 5 months of real-world proof. That is my honest answer. Now I want to hear from you. Is there someone in your life, a parent, a grandparent, a spouse, whose car situation is worrying you right now? Tell me their situation in the comments. How old they are, where they live, what matters most to them. I read every comment on this channel, and if I see enough people asking about a specific situation, it becomes our next video. And if you want to see the full data comparison, all 23 cars I looked at, the full scoring breakdown, and 3 alternatives to the Corolla for different budgets and situations, that video is linked right here. Everything backed by the same sources, everything honest. Take care of the people you love, and make sure their car is doing the same. See you in the next one.